John Doe Radio.
Radio.
I know you don't smoke weed. I know this. But I'm gonna get you high today. Cause it's Friday, you ain't got no job, and you ain't got shit to do.
How much higher can you get?
Give your new live.
The human brain is made for thinking, not fumigating. It's hardly a tinker toy or experimenting. It's not fuming with drugs.
Why do we talk about marijuana? It's the single biggest drug that is a source of some confusion.
This is really about educating the public about the fact that marijuana is a less harmful drug.
Marijuana, that's to get high.
You can be as high as you want.
Prohibition of marijuana over the last 71 years has not actually prevented you from using marijuana.
You feel weak.
I'm sure to winning the war on drugs.
I do believe there have been some successes.
We will never arrest our way out of this problem.
Out here trying to make it, woman, can't you see? Takes a lot of money to make it. Let's talk truthfully.
Welcome to the John Doe Radio Show. I am your host, John Doe, here with Bike Holly.
Morning.
Yo, what's going on?
Try it again. Morning. Hi, Friday.
Our other co-host, our good friend, and business person extraordinaire, Murphy.
You really just met her like a month ago.
It's
You can't say good friend.
She is my good friend.
You've known her for 4 or 5 weeks.
She is my good friend.
Okay.
I trust her.
Just saying.
I believe in her. The brightest white light hope this show has probably seen. No offense, Bike.
Well, what does brown and white make?
I don't know. You'd be the brown.
I'm saying.
What does it make?
I don't know. Plus, you're pink.
Gray.
It'd be like an ugly color.
What does brown and white make? It's like gray.
Nothing. The beige is what it makes. Ugh.
I'm having to go back to like
Crack tan.
kindergarten years to think about that one. I don't remember.
I just did. Done.
Alrighty. Thanks for joining us on the John Doe Radio Show. It's a Friday in the Mile High. It is the Friday, the start of 710 Cup weekend. So hopefully you are prepared for the events if you're here in Denver. Hopefully you enjoy the weekend, have a fun, safe time. Don't overdo it if you haven't dabbed that much. You just might have a bad time. I mean, I'm just saying, some people... How many people are bitching about how crazy dabs are? Fine. I'll give a disclaimer sometimes when I'm throwing... That's what that is. I told you to turn the fan off before the show started, and you didn't do it. That's all right. Fuck your couch. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, grab a DabBQ this weekend and enjoy your damn time, okay? And, yeah, smoke too much.
Yeah, our taxes are paying for a ambulance to take you to rehab if you smoke too much.
That's not happening yet.
Well, let's talk of it.
If I get picked up by the drunk tank, the quote-unquote high tank ever, I swear to goodness.
Want to be called the Dank Tank, Tim?
That whatever it is called. Dank Tank's a decent idea. But, I don't know. Let's not even talk about it or worry about it. It's not something it's not even something that's on my radar for this weekend.
Trying to stay positive?
They just, like, stand outside the 710 Cup and just funnel people into the back of the van.
You think the Westboro Baptist Church is going to show up to the 710 Cup?
The what?
The Westboro Baptist Church. They're going to protest the 710 Cup.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I'm asking you. Do you think
I
they
don't know. I don't think so. Adam Dunn from T.H.Seeds should be here at some point in time today, too. I'm not exactly sure what time. I don't think I nailed down a specific time with him. He'll probably be here. And we'll probably have some awesomeness. Oh, there he is. What up? The man himself, the hemp kingpin. Adam Dunn up in this biatch. Howdy, my friend. How are you doing?
Doing great.
Hold on, let me turn on your mic. She is. forget I'm producing the show sometimes.
You just said your name like 30 seconds before you walked down the corner.
I was like, Adam Dunn's going to be here at some point in time today.
And here I am.
And he walks his happy butt right into the studio. Is this an early morning for you?
Incredibly early for me.
Derek was just saying this is like a red eye for you.
Basically, yeah. I usually just stay up all night hoping I can make it. That's like...
This is the time of year staying up all night. You get the cool weather, so I don't blame you.
Yeah. I mean,
what can you do during
if you can sleep during the day, that'd be great, but I don't think it's possible.
Dude, I know. Locked in the back room, a back safe room with its own separate air conditioning system.
I don't mind the heat. It's just when it gets all this crazy weather, it gets me a little bit freaked out because I'm always, running around scrambling at the lab trying to keep things from blowing away. It's that crazy wind that goes for.
Yeah. The other day we were eating medicated popcorn, and it was just sitting there on top of the bar, and then it wasn't windy at all. And then all of a sudden,
the God spoke.
They just went. It was like no. So it's pretty cool. So yeah, I guess maybe one of the first things that we should mention is your name is Adam Dunn from T.H.Seeds and HempHoodlamb for people that don't know, and for anybody that listens to the John Doe Radio Show, I don't know why you wouldn't know who Adam Dunn is. Awesome dude. Been in the industry longer than most people I know, and
You got to start young. That's the key.
The speaker's on the front of that one.
Before it's cool and trendy.
It's like right on the side. Oh, yeah.
There you go. Before everyone wants to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, so Adam spent a lot of time in Amsterdam. Formed T.H.Seeds, helped form, HempHoodlamb. And then made his way back here to Colorado when the boom started happening, and he kind of realized, hey, I should get back to the States and hit the beginning of something that's going to be big here. And that's what you did. It's kind of picked up right at the beginning.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to escape America for pretty much the majority of the 90s there. So, and
you didn't miss much. No,
definitely not. And then just hid out over there and did my thing and was not really realizing that I was building such a big thing to come back to, because I never thought that America would really get this far ahead. So,
yeah, I mean that's one of the most incredible things of all of this is just the timing. The timing is just perfect.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the key to life, isn't it? Timing is the most important thing. I don't know how many people have missed out on their, life-changing things by just that maybe rolling that one last joint before they left the house. Just missed out. Just missed it.
Yeah, or either that or taking advantage of opportunities when you actually have them. Seize the day.
Yeah.
So no, and then here lately. By the way, if you want to hear past interviews of Adam Dunn, all you have to do is on the John Doe Radio Show site, just search for Adam Dunn, and there's a 3-hour interview we have. The first time Adam sat down and talked with us, pretty much, and one of our favorite guests here at the John Doe Radio Show. So check that out. But here recently, something big that you've been really involved in has been the hemp bill and hemp legislation here in Colorado. So kind of maybe give us a review on that and how that came to play and where it's at now.
I've been really lucky because, the thing about living in Amsterdam was that it was really hard to get people motivated to see change, because you say want to legalize weed. Well, they think it's legal over there, but it's not, and so so you're always on this constant battle. Like if you go to a rally over there, it's pathetic, there maybe be 20, 30 people there because people think they're free when they don't realize that the system over there is definitely not working to their advantage. It's basically just a moneymaker for the state, It's not a long-term, long goal. The biggest problem there is there's no recourse for the growers. The growers have no way to collect any money back on any of their investments. They're always at risk. They're the ones that get in trouble first. Yeah,
because really, you're not supposed to even.
Yeah, there's no system. That's the problem. Here,
you're not supposed to be growing.
Here, at least they recognize the grower, and that's kind of the reason I moved back is because I saw that wow, I could actually get people could actually be really into what you're doing instead of always this sort of mystery, which the way that the Dutch made it, they made it like Mr. X came into your store and sold you this, and Mr. X never gets much play,
Yeah, no, I understand. The thing is, here coming at the beginning of the year, we're going to have vertical integration, and then in November, vertical integration will go away. And for people that don't know vertical integration, that's where, dispensary or shop has to, basically harvest, basically grow and harvest 70% of their product. Now that's going to go away. And you mentioned the grower having a spot in this after they're allowed to kind of create their own company and open their own grows at that point in time. What you mentioned even becomes even more valuable, and that's gonna be a whole nother milestone here in Colorado is when those companies start popping up.
Yeah, I mean it's there's so much to this whole industry that's coming around, and it's like, I mean, obviously legislature is always the hardest part. That is going to be the hardest thing, especially when you have something like this, which is a plant that anybody can grow. The secret's out. Hey guys, anybody can grow this. It's not impossible. So it's not like alcohol where there's so much more infrastructure based on it, and most people, I haven't seen many of my friends with stills in their house lately. So
it's interesting. I mean, home brewing has kicked up here a lot lately, and even here in Colorado, the amount of breweries,
it's incredible,
and distilleries that are popping up. I think there's even a brewery going up on South Broadway. Yeah, the Green Mile.
I think there's about 30 or something in Denver alone, or something like that. It's crazy. There's
popping up all the time, and I mean, Stranahan's here in Denver, which is considered by many to be, right now the world's best whiskey. So
yeah,
that's another thing that I thought about yesterday was those two cultures coming and meeting here in Colorado because they're so strong. The beer and liquor culture, and then the cannabis culture.
Yeah, and they're going to cross over in many ways. I mean, obviously, everybody's looking for the next big kick, and so when you mix alcohol and cannabis, they tend to work pretty well together.
For some people, for some people, and that's the thing is like the government's going to try and prevent that as much as possible. You know, but people are still going to.
It's the nanny state situation. I mean, we got to protect ourselves from ourselves because we know we could never manage ourselves. It's impossible.
Yeah, but hemp.
Yeah, so back to the hemp. I mean, the great thing about the Amendment 64 here in Colorado was that they slipped in the hemp along with it, which to me is kind of an oxymoron because the hemp should be bringing the cannabis along with it. Really, the hemp should have already been legal. It should already be a standard thing. If you go to like a Whole Foods now and you see how much products there are, actually, there's almost a whole row of hemp products available now. Like last month was Hemp History Week, so they had devoted a whole section to it, and it's expanding. And so
at Whole Foods,
at Whole Foods. So I mean,
that's cool.
And the food side of it all is one of those things that I think people don't get too, because they're always looking at the most simple factors, and when you actually take into the food consideration, that blows the market up huge, So the thing about being in Colorado in this whole hemp bill is that it's opening the doors. It's just there's not really an infrastructure right now, and that's kind of the key to the whole thing is developing the factories to produce the products. I mean, nice thing about this is that we have so many steps ahead of us, and every step is another industry for somebody else. So there's going to be so many little micro industries developed around this.
Yeah.
And that's really like the thing that most people don't take into account. Whenever the numbers come out, they don't take into account all the other things. I mean, there's, when somebody says, like imagine all the tourists going into Amsterdam, they don't take into account every single restaurant they go to. They don't take into account every hotel they fill in. They don't take into account every cab ride they take or every museum that they go to. And those things get into the billions quickly.
Yeah, some people try to, and I mean that's what I think estimates come out of. But I mean the normal everyday person is not thinking about.
And it's hard to estimate those things because I mean it's kind of like back in the day when they would say X amount of people have admitted to smoking cannabis. What did it mean anything? Does it admitted to? And that's like, so that doesn't really mean anything.
Inhale.
And also same in Amsterdam with the situation of like, for instance, at the emergency room, they get like hundreds and hundreds of people a year who come in for cannabis overdose, let's say. And it's technically usually they're usually there. They grab some bad ecstasy or something, and the paramedics are in their face. And what are they going to say? They're not going to say I bought some bad ecstasy on the street. They're going to say I bought a space cake at this shop here. So it gets a bad rap a lot of times because of the fact that everybody's trying to like shift the responsibility to something else. So
yeah.
But like with the whole hemp thing here, I think the key to the thing is that it's going to be $1 billion industry quickly, and it's going to come straight out of Colorado. I mean, this is going to be the leaders, and that's kind of the way you have to look at it is we need to develop, cultivar seeds here. which is my world, you know. So for me, just knowing that this state needs trainloads of hemp seeds, you know what I mean? Like trainloads.
So all those products in Whole Foods it's all Canadian hemp products, probably.
For the food products are all Canadian, yeah.
When are we going to start seeing Colorado hemp products hit the shelves?
Well, the good part is that would be the easiest industry to develop quickly, because when you take the hemp seed, it's a complete food product on itself. It's just a little seed that holds everything that the plant needs for the first 2 weeks of its life, which happens to be what we need also for our life. So it develops its own little product, which you can just take those seeds and put them into a bag, and now you have a product. But then you can take those further, and you can take those seeds, sprout those seeds, turn them into breads, turn them into flours, there's all these different oils. You know, so the development of this is going to go really rapidly. And what you'll find is maybe when one company is making one product, they're going to have a waste product, and someone else is going to see that waste product and say, hey, I think I can do something from that, you know. And we're just going to have just an enormous amount of industry. And I think the long-term effects of hemp compared to the effects of cannabis are just way bigger, because, I mean, cannabis is great because it's an immediate effect. You can have it today, and it works for you right now. Where with hemp, it's like it's an overall. It's kind of like taking vitamins. If you do it, you maybe not notice it, but after a little while, you realize, hey, wait, my health is better, and my well-being is better. So I think that we're gonna have so much going on, and what I'm trying to do is just be there to help kind of hand this whole thing over.
I mean, we always hear hemp being one of the best sources of protein. I mean, that's one of the biggest things that I hear.
It's omegas, and the thing is, it's all about the omegas, and those are things you can't get from other sources. I mean, there's except for instance on meat products and things like that, which are shorter, and there's a lot of negatives that come with positive.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing too with Colorado is that I think the main thing and the reason why I like this place and I think that is going to work here is the fact that the population is a lot smaller than in other states. I mean, in California, it's impossible to get anything to work because you have a north and a south, and you have this I mean, if you just drive through town, you see how many things are going on.
We talk about it all the time here.
You just realize it's like one giant festering pool of ideas.
They have their own nation over there.
Yeah, and I mean, it's so I think Colorado is just a better political and social and democratic, sort of space to do all this, and I'm glad we're the beta town,
Yeah, and that's not to say that fark everyone else. That's to say,
like
finally we found a good battleground to jump off of, and let's pull everybody else along with us. One of the things that you were mentioning there when it comes to hemp and different ways that we can use hemp. Is there, quality and breeding? Those are the two things that are going to, become evident to people. There's the kind of need to. Number one, breeding has to happen, and then quality will improve because there's different qualities of hemp. I mean, you can have this just crappy, just thick as yarn, like nasty. You wouldn't want to wear it type hemp, all the way down to fine hemp.
It's the same as like when you're in any industry, like if you bring a tomato farmer on board and he starts telling you about hundreds of different varieties of tomatoes you've never heard of. Same in any industry. There's so many different types of hemp out there.
Yeah.
And the problem with Colorado, this is the only problem we have, is that we're actually quite south. We're more south than people want to believe sometimes because of our altitude. Everybody thinks we're not. No, it doesn't change your latitude. The altitude doesn't change your latitude, and so we're stuck with whatever will work here. And if not, we have to develop those strains. So that's the key, is developing strains right now. And I mean, I think it was a great thing that now the universities are allowed to be able to do this R&D, which is what we need.
So that's what's is that gonna happen here in Colorado? CSU. I mean, CSU is huge in when it comes to just plant life and wildlife. I mean, they have a huge.
Well, I mean, you can imagine if for the last 75 years, if we'd had universities every quarter with a new study going down, that would be in thousands of studies that would have pushed us so much further.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, the key to the thing is that this is such a fundamental, simple thing. It's a plant which produces 50,000 products back in 1937. So we're talking like probably in the billions of products right now, because if the amount of speed that things move at, if you had 50,000 products back in 1937, you probably would have been able to leapfrog 10 or 20 products off of any of those products, and then you'd be into the billions right away. You know, I mean, it wouldn't take long.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I had here. I mean, I brought up on the screen here for some news today, and it's like it caught me as being number one, being a strange headline too. I mean, it's crazy if this is true, and 3, the fact that people are starting to recognize studies is crazy. I mean, there's thousands of studies that have been done with cannabis. But like this headline says, first large public health study of medical marijuana use in young adults to begin. And this is like a New Hampshire university, a New Hampshire project fund. I mean, that's crazy that you would even have that headline right now. I mean, fine. We'll go ahead and say that this is the first study, but it's good that you're recognizing at least that this is going to happen.
Well, the thing is, this is a pretty interesting industry because we are always studying. Every single day we do a little study on ourselves, and we're the scientists, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
These guys can come in and do whatever they want, but I pretty much would trust the masses more than just one guy.
Yeah.
With his 15 people.
We would see patterns of certain things by this point in time. Of people dying off from something or getting some sort of disease or whatever it is,
Yeah, no, and I mean, we're the ones who are immersed in it. We're the ones who are surrounded by it. We're the ones who kind of, without even knowing it, are analyzing the information every day, because if you come up to a conclusion, you see something happens. Especially, that's the one thing about cannabis is that it's really great is when you have non-believers and they just get kind of forced into it by their friend or their mom or their dad or whatever, especially medical purposes, and then within 48 hours there's a response, and then they're awoken, they're awakened up.
Yeah.
So it's like it's really like the
that's what's crazy is because that cop that pulled me over that one time. I mean, when we mentioned when I was in the passenger seat, we mentioned that we were in medical marijuana and whatever. I mean, it was like immediately there was this weird snap of respect and like, okay, I'm sorry, it was you guys aren't trying to fark around, something like that, and it caught me as being strange, and I mentioned before on the show, it was obvious to me maybe that something had happened in his life with medical marijuana, maybe a family member, maybe even himself, where it changed his mentality. No, and that was cool, or maybe his mentality. I don't know. It just was. It was enlightening.
I've met a few cops here that have had the utmost respect for the industry, I think, because they see that they're not stupid, they understand that this is something that's benefiting them, making their jobs easier, in the long run. So
less bullshit is for them.
The smart ones,
sure,
I guess.
For sure. And again, we also got to remember too that it's starting to get into that time period where like when I lived in Amsterdam, most of the cops that were there had been part of this whole experiment for their entire lives. I mean, a lot of these cops were maybe 20, 21 years old. They've never experienced life without a coffee shop down the road selling cannabis. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for them, it's the exact opposite of what we would be used to.
Trip.
And then, but the scary part about it is it's almost like easier for them to turn on their own people sometimes now too, because they're looking for a change. You know what I mean? And they're blaming a lot of times the immigrants that are coming in and they're hanging out in the coffee shops. They just like to lump them all together and turn it into the next nuisance.
Yeah, it'd be nice to not. I mean, it'd be nice to not have the police in that situation to where we fear them because of the drug war, we hate them because of the drug war. I mean you talk about how the Amsterdam police would be used to a situation with a coffee shop down the street. I mean, that sounds so refreshing to me in a way like that. I mean, honestly, because I don't want to have the fear for police that I do.
Yeah. Well, when I first moved there, I was really like, it was kind of a weird vibe because I never saw the police. Like there was many undercovers. There's a lot more undercover police in Amsterdam than any other city in all of Europe because they like to keep an eye on what's going on, but they don't necessarily want to be like in your face aggressive about it. But so you don't ever see the cops. When I first came there, I was like, how does this all run? Because I don't see any police seem to be checking anything. And when you did see them, they had their hat was tilted back, their shirt was a little bit loose. They're smoking a cigarette. They got an earring. You know what I mean? You're like, wow, this is totally different. Like you couldn't smoke cigarettes on duty in America. Like maybe back in the day you could, but not anymore. And then but it has slowly changed. I mean, now I go there. And now they're like making a huge presence, and they're pushing.
Wow.
They all wear fluorescent orange jackets and walk around, so they're making themselves known.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was just like low key, and they were also locals. And now what they're doing is they're doing the classic where they're bringing people from other towns so that they don't have any allegiances to anybody. That way they can't say, hey, you know, back in high school we were buddies, you know, let me off on this one. So they're really trying to crack down on that. And they're also just they've got that RoboCop mentality now where, you know, you ask them a question and they're already suspicious about you instead of listening to the question that you're asking them, you know?
Yeah, I hear that. And that's the frustrating part about police is that...
Well, you know, it's just in general. I mean, it's obviously a generalization, but at the same time, they're trained to unravel you, you know what I mean? So if you come up with a serious question, maybe, you know, you lost your dog or whatever, you're the guilty one. I mean, you're the one, well, where did you put this dog? Did you really have a dog? You know, so you have to, you know, get over that. And they've turned like that over there too. And that's one of the reasons I left. It was just because the mentality wasn't, you know, they didn't see what they had in front of them this whole time.
That's interesting, man.
I got a quick question going back to hemp real quick. And I've heard everyone I've asked this has gone 50-50, so you'd be a great person to ask. What's up with cross-pollination of hemp and outdoor cannabis fields or greenhouses?
Okay, so if you have a greenhouse, then you're pretty advantageous to if you're outdoors, you're pretty much at the mercy of the wind and the distance from this hemp that might be growing close to your spot. Relatively speaking, about 5 miles is considered the sort of closest you could ever have somebody to you because they'll travel very easily 5 miles. But I think actually the reverse of the whole thing might be the most interesting part.
I thought about that as well.
Because maybe our hemp might just turn into become chronic because we're growing so much outdoor. You know, that would be my ultimate goal. Would be that we need to turn the tides and start putting our killer males out there next to their fields and see what we can do to hype it up.
Might make a great high THC, high CBD plant.
But you know, and really the long-term goal though I think should be to separate the whole idea of THC being some sort of limiting factor on why we can't use that plant anymore, and not that I'm saying we should be growing fields of high THC weed that then it just kind of turns into a big mess. But what we should be doing is we should be looking at those high THC varieties for super high fiber, seed, oil, whatever, because in my opinion a super plant's a super plant, and it could just be we've been looking at flowers the whole time.
But what about the fibers and the sticks and the stems?
When you throw your stems away, occasionally you'll get one where you'll be like, man, that's a stem right there, you know, and it's got some rigidity. You're like, man, this thing's strong, you know.
And you're pissed you paid for it.
And you'll have and usually with those plants, they tend to not be the biggest yielding plants too. They tend to be the ones that it's all stem, you know. So you're like,
all the energy went into
this plant really has some about 2 pounds of stem going on it and about an ounce of bud. So that's not really what is my plan. But in the long run, the genetics that are within that plant could be the one, you know. And that's what I always tell everybody, like, you know, if I had like the one ideal thing, you know, obviously I'd want to have a high THC great plant. Like if I was on a desert island, I'd want that plant to be more useful than just the medicine side. I'd want to make sure that the fibers are useful, everything's useful. And yeah, like I said, there's probably some super plant out there that just does it all.
Wow. Dude, that's pretty awesome to think about. That's almost mind-blowing that, you know, like, damn, wow. See, we got to separate that, man. It takes time for these ideas to come out.
You know, and the thing is funny is they're still eradicating hemp from the 40s all over the Midwest, and they spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it.
Yeah.
So you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to kill plants that are so strong that they've kept going for 70 years almost, you know, and it's or 75 years even, without anybody's help. You know, without a single person helping them out, they've managed to just keep this thing rolling. So you're, you know, if that's the case, you got yourself a pretty big battle, you know.
I mean, it's the biggest waste of time in the damn world.
It is, and
you can't even use it. I mean, you can't smoke it. So
well, that's the thing is if they take those plants out there, if they at least use the fiber, or use the seed, or use something out of it. I mean, why would you destroy hundreds of thousands of plants? Yeah. Just to destroy them, just to think. And the funny part about it, the reason they do it is because they like to add that weight to their yearly. You know, we eradicated 2 million pounds of high grade cannabis.
And here's the thing: is I can see why you would have weed mitigation programs in states like Colorado has a massive weed mitigation program. You know, I mean, compared to a lot of other states. I mean, especially some states around us, even in Arkansas, where a lot of my family is, there's there's no weeds here compared to other states, like really. So I mean, I can understand why they want to kill that off, but really marijuana is not one of those weeds that's going to choke off and be noxious and be just one of them things that they're trying to get rid of. Yeah, well, I mean, you know what I mean. Obnoxious weeds. So no, but it is ridiculous. So the hemp bill's made it through.
Well, the thing is, it made it through, but then it was attached to the Farm Bill, of course, and they made sure to let that kind of die in the House there because they, classic Congress.
All right.
Anything with the word Congress tends to be not figured out. You know what I mean? That's part of the deal.
So it died off.
It died off, but the school part did pass. I mean, so that still made it through, and
that's cool.
And that's really the key to the whole thing is, we can't expect to just within 1 year have thousands of acres of hemp fields growing because, first of all, we wouldn't have anything to do with that product. That's been the biggest problem in Europe is that they've been growing it.
Yeah.
And the only place to process it is not even in the same country in the Netherlands. It's in Belgium. So they have to send it to Belgium to process it and then send it back. It's like it doesn't make any sense.
Wow.
So from those points of view, you got to do things in the right order. And right now, the main thing is to find the people, to build the factories, to get the things ready so that when these hemp farmers grow it, they have something to do with it. And that's the key.
Yeah. And there's gonna be a few people growing for research purposes, which is one of the big stories that we were reading here a little while ago. The guy. Where was it in Colorado?
Who, Michael Bowman, you mean? Or
yeah, they planted a bunch of hemp.
60 acres down south, yeah.
Yeah.
Bottom right-hand corner.
And we talked about how maybe they were like, whoa, wait, this, hold on here, don't jump the gun quite yet.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, again, it's the key to the whole thing is to figure out what you're going to do with this product because the last thing we want to do is waste everybody's time.
Yeah.
Make them
and get somebody in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, it's got to happen, I mean?
Yeah.
People have got to, the plants have to go in the ground. It's just like anything. Like when I sell somebody a pack of seeds and they come back to me 2 years later and they tell me they didn't even grow it yet, I just like, well, what was the point of that? You know what I mean? Like, you're not collecting these things. You're supposed to be growing.
But
there's a lot of
collectors.
I know. There's a lot of collectors. I mean, you might as well go out and collect dinner, It's like, I don't eat dinners. I just buy them and look at them.
Or money.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, got to use it if you want to,
I hear you.
If you can't abuse it if you don't use it, right?
So next year, I'm sure that situation will be back. And I wasn't surprised, but I was very, it was awesome how far it did make it and how much support it did receive because it did a lot. And then Jared Polis taking the hemp flag on July 4th and flying that. So it's making huge strides.
Yeah. Do you want me to give you a little more on that flag?
Yes.
We would love to talk more about that flag.
I was going to bring that flag. Well, that was a pretty awesome little situation. I had Das call me up and basically it was 2 days before that farm.
Das,
bill.
epic.
Aqua Das.
Epic
the man
hemp
himself,
dude.
Mr.
Yeah,
Ice Cream.
hemp ice cream and all that. By the way, we're talking with Adam Dunn for T.H.Seeds, HempHoodlamb.
So he called me up. It was about 2 days before that farm bill was about to be voted in, and basically we were on the idea that it was all going to pass. Everything was going to be great. So we went he calls me up and says that Paulus had asked for a hemp flag, and of course there was one company they had found online, and they weren't answering their phone. So he asked me if we think we can make one, and I mean, I never made a flag before, but since we have a clothing company, we figured it shouldn't be that hard. It's a square piece of.
It's a flag, man.
It's a square piece of material, but the weight of the whole thing was pretty huge because idea of being able to get it there and that he would show it, and then the idea at that point was that they would fly the flag during this victory of ours, but we only had 48 hours to get the flag to Washington, and we had to make a flag too. So that's I don't think Betsy Ross would have been able to pull this one off. It was like one of those wow.
Dang.
So it was like a kind of a mad scramble. Cece, my wife, she got online, started checking with the people. We started checking with Sheldon, who does Dank decals and Graffiti Factory out of the lab. So he had printing capabilities. I got my mom on board so she could get ready to cut and sew the thing and have it basically done that night and shipped out the next day.
Oh man!
My cousin picked up the flag, drove it to my mom. My mom took, cut and sewed.
Your mom is awesome.
It was like pretty much a mad scramble, but was pretty interesting because, like, for instance, that picture that's online everywhere with him holding the flag up.
Yeah, inside the chamber.
Yeah, so that was like me on my iPad, going like, "Holy shit, look at that! There's the flag," Like I couldn't believe it, so I just like snapped a shot on the iPad. And then forward that shot, and that same shot, it's the same shot that everybody's been using. So it's just like the classic where
they should have put that Hemp Hoodlamb put together this flag. Why they should have made it out?
It's in there. It's in the Westward article. The thing is that Westward is the ones who put it out big and like put it out,
Okay.
and then once it hit Reuters, the thing about media, which you realize, especially in this industry, is that if it's a feel good story, it's gonna get so much momentum so fast because that's what people want, People
right now with marijuana for sure and hemp.
So, and I'm sure if it's a negative thing, it'll probably get, I'm sure they've had that for the last 20, 30 years. They're like, hey, we put out anything negative, boom, around the world. Everybody's believing that stuff, you know what I mean?
And you were absolutely right. After doing news for the past 5-6 years here, there is a change, and it's positive.
And now it's gone to the feel-good side of it all. And then this story, because of it being because the greatest part about it was that when Michael Bowman was there, he was the one helping out Paulus to get this thing going, and he recognized he noticed that they have a flag service there where you can bring your flag and have it flown over the Capitol. So, for instance, if you have a flag from your school and you want to bring it to there, and then they'll fly it over this thing, and then you get the photo. But the only person who can ask is a congressman from that. So basically, it's an idea that each state, for instance, a congressman can have their local flag.
You have to go to your congressman.
Yeah. So of course, we had one there, right there. So
and he's majorly pro cannabis.
Right. So he asked, he requested it, and got permission to fly it on the 4th of July.
Nice.
So you couldn't get better than that.
Big
You know what I mean? It was like. It was a great feeling, and then
Jared Polis is also gay, by the way. That doesn't mean anything, but it's just awesome that. He's
a big year for him. Then I guess
he's
he's helped push a lot through.
He's a human rights.
Yeah.
In that sense, I love that he is in Congress representing us. So.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. And then the whole thing to watch how fast this thing blasted around the world. The next day. A friend of mine said, "Hey, have you looked at the hemp flag online yet?" And I hadn't even. I was just looking on Facebook just like to see how many likes we had. I forgot that there was a whole internet world out there, And then I looked and I said, "Wow, this thing really got shared about 1 billion times." Just kept going and going. So it's great because I know in 20 years from now, people are going to still talk about that flag. It's going to be it's going to be that flag.
Maybe it'll become the standard.
And even cooler is they are now THC magazine and is going to develop a website for the flag called Follow the Flag, and it's going to be flown over every capital that has either decrimmed or passed medical marijuana. So it's going to be a pretty awesome thing.
He even posted here, I just went to his Facebook page, he even posted that yesterday, or 20 hours ago from Washington, that he's committed to this common sense amendment of, the hemp amendment of universities being able to grow and cultivate, and once, is committed to making that law. So that's cool.
Yeah, no,
that's weird. That's the last thing he posted.
And if you ever see, I'm sure you've seen the online with him and the head of the DEA with just crushing them.
And the last 2 things he posted about were about marijuana and then hemp. This dude's, I love him.
Yeah, no, he's the man for sure. And this whole this whole thing couldn't obviously happen without people like him making these people understand. And the great part was to sit in on the Senate hearings and things is we're just telling them the most common things that we know. We're not even getting deep into it. We're just giving them the basics, and it's blowing their minds.
They don't want the deep details. They honestly are questioning what they've been told for the past however long they've been alive by whatever drug program in the ONDCP.
Well, the funny thing is that during that whole thing, Samantha Walsh, who is working up on the Hill,
and a co-host of the Hemp Connoisseur Show. She should be here on Thursdays too.
So she told me to bring in. We make a bulletproof jacket also. It's not like a stand. It's not like we're making thousands of them or anything, but we made them. We made the first one for Snoop, and we made one for the captain on the Whale Wars, and probably about 20 or 30 others. But anyway, she said, you should bring one of those down and show that to them. And with all the gun craziness and stuff, I was like, do we really want to mix up cannabis and guns? Do we really want to make things look like? But she was 100% correct. I brought it in, showed that, and I swear these people jumped off their seats because we're in a militarized country now. I mean, even if we don't want to believe it,
holy crap,
that is how we are. That's how these people think. So the minute they saw a bulletproof jacket made out of hemp, they just went like, hey, where do we sign? You know? So I was like, is that what it takes, really? You know,
dude.
I thought it was the opposite. I was trying to bring, peace, love, and harmony into the whole thing, and not trying to show off.
We don't want it.
But they wanted it.
It probably has something to do with how, I mean, how many uses you can have for hemp. I mean, the strength of it and the awesomeness of it. I mean, I would like to think that.
I mean, I hope so. But I think a lot of it, too, is just the fact that, if you haven't been exposed to the quality of this plant, then you don't understand that it's above and beyond what we're already using nowadays, So once they saw the quality of this thing, then I think that actually helps them, And I think also the idea of developing more companies here in Colorado. That's pretty much. I mean, they're really based on cash,
Heck yeah.
They're fiscally monitored.
Go figure.
Damn, that's cool though, and I can't wait for. I mean, that's the whole nother industry that we're going to get to see explode even after the cannabis industry. I mean, come here January 1st, we get to see this awesomeness pop up, and then, bam, man, once hemp goes around.
Yeah, I mean, the only problem I can see in the near future is going to be availability, of course, because, we're all gung-ho, but that 60 acres is not gonna cut it for the whole state. You know what I mean? So in the end of the day, it's going to be like there's going to be some growing pains, literally.
Yeah, I think he said he's growing specifically for seed.
Yeah, and I think he's got a variety which is called Finola, and that's another one of the things that we really got to get through is because the problem with Finola, I've talked to the people who developed it, and they told me straight that it will not work in Colorado because we're just too far south, and we're going to end up, that's going to be an October to November plant. So he might have a hard
frozen up.
Yeah, so he might have a hard time getting to fruition on this one. But, I mean, give it a couple of years and the plant will adjust itself. And that's the thing is with the R&D side of it all. If the universities had the next couple of years to really put their minds to it, I'm sure they can come up with 10 to 15 new strains that are all made for Colorado because we have so many different climates here.
Sure.
You'd have to have one for the plains and one for the mountains and one because it's all different.
Indoor hemp?
I doubt it would be really cost effective.
Sure.
It's one of those. Maybe if the lighting got to the point where it was some new crazy lighting that could really pull it off. But having said that, for seed production, indoor hemp might not be the worst thing because you could get multiple crops a year.
True.
And once, but it'd be getting to that point of having you have to grow it open air and open pollination to be able to find the ones that would work.
Sure.
That's the key. And I think we're still 2-3 years away from that. But if you did dial it in and found the one and you knew that was the one, no problem. Pound that stuff out.
Get lucky.
Yeah.
So going back to weed side of it real quick and seeds, someone in the chat room says they have a pack of Zero Gravity. They can't find any information on it. Can you tell them what it is?
Well, they must have had it for a little while since we haven't had it. Don't think hasn't been in our stock for a little while. But
Stop hoarding those seeds.
Just as we were talking earlier, you got to grow them. You got to get them in the ground. But basically, Zero Gravity, the original plant, which was called Gravity, came from the Midwest. Had guys from Minneapolis who moved out to Amsterdam, brought that plant with them. They actually got the seeds from Neville. It was one of Neville's varieties back in the day. So Neville had something which he had called, which he didn't really put a name to it. He was like, he was still in the little coding times. And these guys had met up with Neville back in Amsterdam, early 90s, brought the seed back to there, blew it up, killed it. But I think they did too good of a job, so they decided to move to Amsterdam and try to relax a little bit instead of being under the gun so far.
Sure.
Massive yielding plant. You can get 12 ounces on a plant, no problem. If you're growing like big plants, like this is in maybe a 7 or 11 gallon pot soil if you're doing that, or a 5 gallon maybe hydro. But yeah, the mother plants on that would regularly when you flowered them out would give it 20 ounces a plant. So it was just a big, massive yielding thing.
Sweet.
Yeah, awesome plant.
That's pretty cool.
It was a little bit hard to clone though. That was one of the bitches of it. It was one of those plants that, and it was very tight on the internodal length, so that it would kind of burn out as a mom really fast. You get a couple of rounds of cuts, and then you just couldn't take a cut because they were so tight that you know, they don't.
More of it.
Well, they just didn't really like. I mean, to be quite honest, everybody's always worried about stretch. I don't want it to stretch too much, and I'm like, to me, it's actually sometimes it's beneficial because you can just bang them out quick. They stretch what they need to, and then they fill it all in. If you're trying to veg a plant into itself, sometimes it's like that's really the waste of time. You know what I mean? If you're like spending 6 weeks to veg a plant and it produces less weight than a plant that only vegged for a week, you've just wasted 5 weeks of it. You know what I mean? So there's always like it's just a numbers game.
So if people are trying to grow in some technique, what's the best technique?
Best
Scrog.
technique?
Scrog, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, a lot of it's changed in the last. You know, I think the biggest difference, like in Holland, everybody just jammed as many plants as they could in because nobody really cared about numbers. Now that the numbers are important, I mean, and to me, a bigger plant is a happier plant. You know, I think a plant wants to live to its potential, and when you're putting them in a 1 gallon pot and, you know, cramming them in, you're not obviously going to give them to their full potential. So for yield, just straight up yield, I think deep water culture is probably the best.
Deep water culture?
That's the biggest I've ever seen. I mean, I've never grown bigger yields than I have on deep water culture.
Okay.
But there's a critical situation because your plants are on a life support system at all days, you know, all times. So when you're on those, sometimes you could be a victim of your own success. Roots grow, you know, into every single hole possible, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, there's no water coming up here. How come? Well, it's because the roots have grown like into the feeding tubes, you know.
Yeah, and that's quite often we talk about that at the grocery store. People come in.
Yeah, so I mean, it's sometimes. I like deep water culture for the yields. I hate it for the maintenance side of it all because you do have to pull them out and clean off the roots every so often because otherwise they'll just, you know, they'll overtake your thing.
Wow.
For me, soil has the best flavor.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm going to grow for personal use, it'll always be soil. And if I grow for seeds, it's always in soil. I don't do anything hydro for soil for seeds, just because there's no food on the market right now that's really developing for making seeds. They're all made for producing bud and weight and resin. So in the end, the plants are almost like pushed a little too far. But when you do it on soil, everything's, you know, much more mellow. You can I do like a super soil mix, keep it real simple.
Yeah.
You might feed them a little bit down the road, but for the most part, you're letting the plant, you know, use up everything it's got.
I just had mentioned the screen of green because it seemed like at one point in time you were having some extreme success.
Yeah, I mean,
in that if you have that opportunity to be able to do it.
Yeah, I love to scrog. The only thing with it is it's kind of like you have to constantly be on top of it because the whole key to scrogging is to whatever pops its head through your screen is now getting everything, is like on the plant hormonally is getting all the energy, you know. So what you got to do is push it down again to create an even top. So what you really want to do is try to create as many small tops as possible instead of one big one, you know. And that's really the whole thing, is just knocking them down.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a full-time job sometimes.
Oh, for sure. It's a full-time job. That's the frustrating thing about being a grower, is not being able to take a vacation sometimes. I mean, you got to like plan for a break in time, or have just that trustworthy friend, you know, that can take over your shiz.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the more than not, when people go on holiday and come back, that things aren't quite what they thought, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I have had plenty. Usually the problem is as you're landing, you know, you call them ahead and say you're coming in. That's about the time they tend to like start to run down to start take care of them, you know? So.
That is pretty much true. Somebody told me the other day that they were gonna they had like an automatic system that they had set up for their plants. They were going to be gone for a week. And the system didn't sound that foolproof. So and I was like, hold on here.
It's definitely like a sacrifice that most people don't think about when they jump in the game. But, you know, 10, 20 years later, you might start thinking, you know what? I haven't really been on a lot of holidays lately.
Yeah, that's one thing for sure, is how much time. Yeah. Anyway.
But it is beautiful when you come home and they're doing good. Because,
I
mean, 2 weeks, if you go away for 2 weeks and come back, that's like a lifetime in plant world, you know?
Oh, for real.
So you're like, wow, this is great. We should go away from it more often.
Yeah, I do love that part.
But that's because I got my mom helping me, so that makes life easy, you know. So
your mom
she won't screw me over.
Awesome. Yeah, your mom is one of the coolest moms ever. So if anybody's ever been to the lab or hung out, they know that. So
another question from the chat room. I forget who it was, but they said all these new seed companies coming up. especially these last couple of years now out of nowhere. What is T.H.Seeds doing about this? What are you doing to stay ahead of the game?
What are you doing?
Or are you just staying?
Adam, what are you doing?
I think the main thing is to, like, for instance, Simon from T.H.Seeds, a good friend of mine. He has 5 varieties of cannabis. I think maybe he has 6 now, and he's had the same 5 for 20 years. And so he's probably the most 100% genuine breeder I know in Amsterdam. I mean, there's really, like, so many people came in there and just pollen chuckers and throwing things around and trying to come up with ideas.
Pollen chucker.
And he's like, you know, he bred birds before. That's what he bred falcons. So he's a falcon breeder. And now he's breeding cannabis, you know? So
this must be simple.
You can't screw around breeding falcons, you know what I mean? The last thing you want to do is have retarded falcons kind of as your pet, you know what I mean? Like, so you definitely want to have well-bred falcons. But in general, like, I think that's the key is keeping things simple and not just, I mean,
find what works for you. And
I didn't come out with the cookies like, oh, I got to have a cookies. Oh, I got to have that. You know what I mean? Because that's the problem is a lot of these companies are based on what's hot at the moment. You know what I mean? And I always tell everybody, as a seed company, if you don't bring something to the table that hasn't been there already, then you're not a seed company. You're just a replicator. You know, you're out there replicating what everyone else is doing. And,
at one point you mentioned you're just a DJ remixing the shiz.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, the key to the whole thing would be bring something to the table. We're not doing anything different than we were before. What we are doing here in Colorado is sort of sitting back and watching more than doing too much, because right now I don't think there really needs to be too much. Like, you shouldn't come out with like 15 new strains every week because people don't have time for it, you know. And I think the key, like, is to come out with 1 or 2 good ones that are your own and have a unique signature to them.
Yeah.
That way you can get that out there and kind of make people happy. And also, when you're working with other people's work, unless you know that person really well, there's so many hidden surprises down the road. Like a sour diesel, for instance, is a notoriously pain in the ass to breed with. You know, it throws out tons of male flowers, and it's just a nightmare. So what happens is people just run with it. You know what I mean? They'll just take that and cross it with everything, not really thinking about the circumstances down the road.
Yeah.
And you know, it takes probably, you have to back cross it at least 4 to 5 times to get to the point where you can say, okay, that is what it is.
Yeah, I love sour diesel though in growing. It's such a robust plant to be able to work with. It's not, likes the high temperatures if you get into a situation with that. And so anyway, it's a cool plant. Now, your favorite is sage. So I've been sage for a while. What's the last strain that you released? Was that Cold Creek Kush?
Yeah, in Europe we released a few different varieties, but those weren't from my camp. See, the thing is, we have T.H.Seeds Iberia, we have T.H.Seeds Colorado. T.H.Seeds Iberia is the Spanish grower side. So basically, most of the seeds produced in Europe are produced there. Some of them in Amsterdam still too, but not much. So they came out with Skunkage. They came out with an Underdog OG, which was basically the Underdog straight, And
Really? I don't think I knew about that one.
Yeah, that just, if you go onto their website, you'll see it's like the newest. But here, what I've been doing, Cold Creek was the last one. I've done a bunch of like crosses for fun, but we haven't really released anything.
Yeah.
I think we're about 2 more years away. It seems like in Colorado before people figure out that, oh, wait a minute. If you just put a seed in the ground, you might get like 5 times as much as if you did put a clone in the ground, because it really comes down to vigor, and I think it's because we don't grow enough outdoors here that we don't really recognize, because everybody indoors, you can manipulate indoors to do what you want. You can veg the plant for a year if you wanted to. It's up to you. But outdoors, it's pretty much like, hey, that's what happens. So when outdoor, like, that's the difference between Cali growers and Colorado growers, is I think NorCal, I should say. In Northern California, when you see plants grown in full sun and let to do what they want to do, then you understand the plant much better. Like, you can never understand a plant putting it into a tight little pot and flowering it when you want to flower it and topping it when you want to top it and doing it. But if you let it just do its thing and you find out that that plant produces 10 pounds on its own without you even touching it, you know what I mean? Then you're like, well, that was the one right there, you know what I mean? Or if you have another plant, that's the one thing in NorCal is that no one wants to grow OGs outdoors. Everyone hates it because they don't get crap for yield, but they have to because it's the easier sell. But, you know, that's why they love to grow their Blue Dream and stuff because it just grows beautiful and automatic and no problem. Not my favorite plant, but from a hey, I put a seed in the ground and I got a 10-pound plant, I could learn to love that.
That's funny. People say Blue Dream oil tends to have a little be very waxy.
I've never been a big fan of Blue Dream.
I'm not a big fan myself, but I can see from a grower's point of view because I've seen like 5 people grow it and it's looked exactly the same between all 5 of them. So I'm like, well, that's a pretty easy to grow, consistent plant because you can do that with a lot of stuff and you'll never get 5
see it.
Broadway Wellness, I think, brought it here. It was one of the first places to bring it here.
Yeah. I mean, I saw some farms in NorCal. That's all they grow.
It's a heavy favorite of a lot of people, man. Like people really, really, really buy it up in the dispensaries too. So.
And I saw one guy. It was a one-man show, and he had about 30 plants, but they were in 12-foot beds, and these things were just massive. And he ran the entire show by himself. So obviously the plants are pretty easy to maintain. You know.
That's definitely interesting. How much more time you got with this? Whatever. All right, cool. We got another hour left on the show, so we get news and other stuff. But I wanted to. So you talked about the Underdog here. Underdog. I've had more extract from that and water hash specifically. It seems like it's a really, really, really good water hash plant. And I mean, everybody talks about the flowers being amazing.
Yeah, it's real clear. It's got real clear resin. Great terps. You know, it's like one of those plants that I think, you know, it's not the hugest yielding plant, but it's beautiful, but it's a gorgeous plant. It produces beautiful.
Yeah. What do you got? Some Earl there?
I got a little Underdog here.
You feel free to take a hit there, real if you want.
There's some Undie.
Wow. Some Underdog right here. That's the thing is like I just can't wait till we could actually start heavily smelling the Earl.
I can smell it.
I know that's because you smoke way more than me.
That's why.
What I like, which is kind of weird, it's like the opposite of water hash, is that when you pull it out, it's all dull and not so exciting.
When it's on the paper?
And then when you let it sit out, it turns all shiny, which is exactly the opposite of when you make water hash. Because when you make nice water hash and you put it in and you have it into a piece of cellophane and you zip it off, you get a nice shine. And about a half hour later, it's sort of dulled out. You know what I mean? So it's weird.
What do you think? Speaking of water hash,
yeah.
What do you prefer? Do you like when people make it all greasy, or do you like when it's dry and more handleable with your fingers?
I think greasy is the way to go. I mean, I don't like when it's too dry. Sometimes I think it just depends on the plant, you know, because you can get some that just can't do that. Like some plants will never be dry. Mm-hmm. Sour is a good example. It's very greasy, and it just does it on its own. So I think that is just, to me, if it's almost like when you pocket press something, then you know it's good because you didn't do any work.
Grab a dabber.
You didn't do any work. It just happened to come out of your pocket looking good, you know, and that's because resin is a really good universal product to work with. It's almost like having a piece of silly putty in your hand or something.
Sure.
And if it's good and it's even and consistent, then you'll get it'll just get nicer and nicer the more you're working in your hand.
Sure.
And I think that's the problem with most of the hash culture here in Colorado is they're very young. Nobody here really knows about hash. In Europe, hash is what it's all about.
Sure.
So it's quite interesting to see how it's switched over. Like now everybody thinks they're hash masters. Everyone's a hash master, right? And I'm like, well, have you ever made dry sieve?
They know how to make oil. That's different.
Yeah, and they don't know how to make dry sieve, and they don't know the history of hashish. And that's the thing is that.
That's why I said that water hash is more of an art, and it's like a lot easier to make BHO. I mean, it just.
And actually, water hash is even not really authentic. You know what I mean? If you want to go real authentic hash, it's dry sieve. That is the way you make hash. Water hash, there's people who did it. Afghanis made water hash back in the day, but it wasn't the same idea. They used the water more in the pressing technique and not in so much in the processing technique.
Extraction, right?
So they would use hot water and run it over their presses while they were pressing it so that it would burst all of the glands, and you end up with a nice shiny piece of Afghani, like border Afghani or something, which has got that like really pro vibe to it, you know. And the problem with water hash is if you take a piece of water hash today and you seal it up and you put it away and you go back a month later, I guarantee you it will not look the same.
Sure.
It will not be the same color, not the same smell, not the same consistency. It probably won't get you as high. Take the same piece of dry sieve hash 5 years later, it still gets you high.
Wow.
It still works. So that's the thing, is it's not long-term storage is not the, so that's the reason why it's like we are all smoking it as fast as we can make it, which is probably a good thing, because if we were to try to like sit on it and hold it, we'd all be like less impressed with ourselves, I think, is one thing. We'd all be like, wow, I'm not such a great hash maker. Look at my stuff falls apart and turns into crap. Yeah, because you had to wait a little bit, but if you push it out on the market really quickly, you can fool anybody. I mean, you can leave water in there to sizzles, and now people are becoming more educated, but I mean, in the beginning, when the only thing that people cared about was if it bubbles, because it was bubble hash. There was no BHO. So back in the day, it was if it doesn't bubble, it ain't worth the trouble, right? That was the motto as everybody's was working with. So what happened was you got authentic full melt, clear dome full melt, awesome. Can't resist. But you're only getting a gram or two at a time, maybe, a couple grams, 6 grams or 8 grams. So no one ever sees that hardly.
Sure.
That stays. So I used to call that 30-meter hash, which meant it never Never went farther than 30 meters away from me, So it was, people are like 30-meter hash. What does that mean? So I always kept it close to me because I realized, and I told people like, look, this stuff should be $100 a gram because of the work that goes into it. It's too much work, And same with dry sieve. Even worse, because dry sieve, the whole thing is you have to use multiple screens, just like you're doing with water hash. Most people just use a 150 micron screen, and then they think that's it, done deal. That's not how it works. You got to sieve off the highs and the lows, and what a lot of people like. That's the only difference that I did in Amsterdam is that I used a couple different screens, and then everybody thought I was like, oh my God, your hash is so good. And I'm like, yeah, it's because I cleaned the dirt out of it. And that's all it is. It's like...
that's what, here in Colorado, Nick T, I think, he just ordered up some custom screens from My O'Keefe box. So, I mean, it's definitely...
I think the dry sieve will come into effect. The thing is, it's really like... It's that difference in flavor from old school flavor and new school flavor, and I think kids now haven't experienced anything. No one, like most people now, haven't experienced cured weed.
It's an incredible flavor, dry sieve hash, isn't it? Because I think Derek has made some before, and I think I've had it.
Well, the difference is that all of the terps are there. You know what I mean? Because when you wash anything in water, you're washing out a lot of the flavor, and there's no way around it. Which sometimes is good because a lot of times the flavors are too much, like too acidic or too heavy.
Yeah.
So what happens is when you take water hash, you actually pull out a lot of the chlorophyll, you pull out a lot of the dust, which is the key. Because I mean, you got a sticky plant in a room. You can imagine, like when you turn the light, if you go into your room in the daytime with the sun coming in and you see how much dust is in your room. Well, that dust is all around all the time.
And how dirty some people's grow rooms are.
And so the buds are sticky. They're just like these big sticky things in this dusty room. So when you're done and you're smoking it, obviously you're smoking some dust in there too. But when you take it and you make water hash out of it, that dust is eliminated, which makes it a cleaner product. But when you do dry sieve, most people aren't thinking about that. And what happens is you get this talcum powder feeling powder, which is crap, and that's the stuff that you don't want. There's no oil in that. And so what you do is you have, for instance, you have 2 screens. You'll have your 150 screen, which lets everything through. Yeah. And then you'll have your tighter screen. I don't know if I should say the number because I might, give out all my secrets.
You don't have to.
Can't give out all my secrets, but basically you have a tighter screen, and the idea is you're keeping every resin gland that stays on top of that screen, not below the screen. So everybody's always thinking like, ooh, what goes below the screen is the best. Well, not really. At a certain point, it's too small, and you don't want that. So what you do is you get rid of all the dust and all the smaller stuff, smaller than the actual resin glands.
Yeah.
And so the resin gland falls through the first sieve, lands onto the second one, and stays on top of that one. And now all the dust and crap falls through the second one, and you get rid of that.
Wow.
That was my only little secret, and that basically was the difference between me making great quality hash back in Amsterdam and the average guys who were making these like pucks of dirt. And the people were like, "Why is mine like dirt, and yours is like bubbling?" And it's because I took out the dirt. That's all. And then the problem is that they don't want to do that because, for instance, if they had maybe 100 grams of hash, I just took out 60 grams of dirt and ended up with 40 grams of bomb resin.
All that money.
So they look at the money, you know what I mean? And that's the hardest part for a lot of people in this industry is to like experiment with anything because that's $100. What if I ruin it? Well, then you ruined it. Sorry, and I go get some more.
That's so frustrating when as I work next door is that people coming in and there's a dabber right there, by the way, and there's the rig and torch. Is when the people come in and they start talking about how they have their own stash and how they treat their own plants and everything else, and this heady stash. And then either the next time they come in or in that same buy, they'll turn around and pick up like Avid or some like Eagle 20 or even this even more. We have a $500 bottle, it's like a pint, like a $500 bottle of pesticide. It's basically for shoot, I just brain farted on what it was. These new bastards that have made it into town.
Aphids?
No, not root aphids. There's some new.
The russet mites?
Yeah, russet mites are making their way around. I think it came. Is what everybody's saying.
I heard about those that came out of Netherlands.
It came in, and what I heard is it came in a shipment of dirt. Like some people are saying, it may have. I'm not going to say what dirt company or what dirt because that may not be true.
Don't put the dirt on the dirt.
I don't want to blast them and people listening to the show who actually buy stuff from us be like, oh, I'm not going to buy that anymore.
Well, the thing
we don't sell a lot of that dirt anyway.
Russet mites, I don't know if they came in the dirt because they usually live on the plants alone, but
exactly.
They hit California about 5 years ago. My friends out there had problems with them, and I've been scared ever since. I've actually never seen one. Hopefully, never.
Really
want to see one.
That's good.
But they are a disaster for sure for anybody's rooms. I mean, that's the thing too. Is like if we completely bomb these things with tons and tons of heavy pesticides, then we're only making them stronger. That is the biggest problem of these things. It's better to start over sometimes than it is to try to fix what you got if it's that bad.
Yeah, and that's something that I think that's something that people really, really, really don't understand. And another thing, where I was going with all that was that people. The weight that they're producing, the weight part of everything, they don't care about the quality. They just care about the weight and the production of it. Mm-hmm. And I mean, in the legal market, hopefully that starts to kind of go away.
Well, the main thing what we don't want to have happen is what happened in Europe, which is that people got so far away from the idea that this is supposed to be a quality plant that's supposed to work we just want to get weight out of it. And they had a company called Brix. I told you guys about it on the show before, but it's pretty much a danger that you want to keep everybody warned. And I'm sure somebody in America is going to think this is a great idea too. They started to put this product called Brix, which was basically a spray that you'd spray on your plants the day before you harvest. And so the idea is it would stick to the plants. It's invisible-ish, it's clear, and it would add weight to your plant. So basically, you'd buy this product. It would say it would weigh half a pound. Well, you just added a half a pound to your yield. Straight up. It doesn't wash away. It stays there. The people smoke it, and it's terrible. The company that developed it strategically called it Brix, which is actually a scientific term for the amount of sugar in your plant. So has nothing to do with what the product that they're selling. And so to the untrained eye, as a Brix, because Brix is good, right? Because it's high sugar. That's what plants have, a high Brix count. That means they're very healthy. But no, this is completely opposite. Not healthy at all. Spray it on your plant, sell it to the next guy, count the money. That's how they look at it.
Wow. And exactly.
And then the problem was that people couldn't get their hands on this Brix product, so they just started using whatever they could. And they started spraying on whatever they could onto the plants to add weight. And it got to the point where they were even taking fluorescent lights and breaking them and pouring the mercury onto the buds.
What?
Because it's heavy and it's dusty
yeah.
and it's shiny. It's shiny and it's heavy. That's what they're looking for.
Wow.
So you can imagine the health consequences to England, because basically all this stuff would go to England, and then kids were having basically lungs were collapsing and people were going to the hospital and they were having major problems. And I mean,
losing all their customers that way.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem. Is these people it's because of the illegality around Holland that Holland didn't care and exported all this crap to all these people because of the situation. Now, if those countries just had their own situation going, they wouldn't have had any of that.
Created health problems.
Exactly.
Over weed.
And so it was, and that to me was almost one of those turning points of why I moved back to America, was because once it got to the point where I had to test the cannabis that I was about to smoke. And the way we would do that is we would take hot water, like a cup of tea, with no tea in it, of course, and then drop a little cannabis in there, and then just wait and see what happens. And
if oil would float up.
If there was an oily film on top, then you knew that they sprayed some sort of oily thing on there. Huh. But sometimes there'd just be like a physical thing that would fall off of it, and it would sink to the bottom. So you'd either have an oily thing at the top, or you'd have a layer of this white crud at the bottom, and you'd be like, what the hell's that? You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
And I mean, it was quite fun to watch people when they'd hand you something, and I'd pull out some water and start showing them their stuff is actually crap and full of garbage, you know what I mean? And they'd,
The excuses would fly, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. So I mean, it's like once that gets into the market, then it just, that ruined the vibe pretty much.
That's pretty bad. Yeah, don't blame you there.
And when you tell people here, they're like, no way. But I can pretty much guarantee you that stuff's around the corner too, because, for instance, we're in a medical state. It won't happen here with our shops, but who knows what happens to the states that are around other states, or people that, if somebody knows that they can make an extra $10,000 just by spraying something on something, they'll do it, you know what I mean? It's
Fuck that, man.
Well, what are they doing now in Cali with that flavor flush, where they flush and then your weed has a flavor to it, and then it's a bowl of char and you get a headache?
Yeah, never a good idea.
I forget the name of... I forget what strain or whatever they're calling it.
Does the flavor impart even? Does it actually come into the next, like you taste it, or?
Apparently, yeah.
I didn't even know cannabis could even do that.
To a point. Yeah, I mean, I know plenty of people who have done some stupid stuff around the final, last flush, hit them with all sorts of things. That's why I asked if it goes into the plant, because I've never actually picked up on it. I mean, I know people have told me plenty of times that, I know people who say they boil their roots. I mean, there's so many stupid things out there. You've heard the boil the roots, right?
No.
Yes.
Now,
yes.
Oh yeah, for sure. Real deal, written in books in the 70s that this is the way you need to do it. You pull the plant out from the ground with its root mass, and then you go to a big pot of boiling water, and you drop it in there, and then that will actually increase the THC.
I'll tell you what I have heard similar. I heard from Massachusetts outdoor growers in the early 90s. They went out and got a bag of roofing nails from the hardware store.
Oh yeah, you spike them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Now I know people who do that too, still to this day. I mean,
put the nails through the plant.
Yeah, just to shock it. All the THC that's not in the buds will magically go to the buds because the plant's scared or hurt or something.
Yeah, I think that I think that there is some validity to the whole thing, because of the fact that the plants tend to, when they heal themselves, it tends to be like a little extra boost right around there. Like whenever you get those cracked knuckle plants where you broke a branch, come back, repair it.
Exactly.
Come back when you're harvesting and you see this big knuckle next to it, and then a lot of times the bud right above that knuckle is better. It's bigger. Because the plant really focused its energy on that spot to fix it, and while doing that, made the buds bigger.
Well, some of the lights too that
but
contain...
but the resin is not flowing through the plant. I think it's a lot to do with how people thought we worked back in the day. We were phlegm and blood, and it just having the right amounts of it.
Balance.
If you had too much phlegm, then you needed to drain the phlegm, and if you had too much blood, well, obviously you need to drain a little of that blood. But I think we all kind of thought plants and humans were a little bit more basic, than they really are. I think there's a bit more going to it.
That's crazy. I forgot what I was going to say. Damn it.
I would think it would take a lot of energy away. Repairing that plant, repairing that one section, would take a lot of energy away from the rest of the plant. Would the rest of the plant suffer?
It could. I mean, definitely could. I mean, I think anytime, like when people strip plants and lollipop them back to nothing, and then they have like one leaf on the plant, and then they, they say it increases the yield. It could, and certain varieties, I bet, really respond well. I'm sure there's other ones that don't like it at all.
Sure.
And you just figure the ones that do, do it to the ones that do, and don't do it to the ones that don't. But for the most part, if the plant is healing itself, then it's not building itself. It's got to do. It's kind of like you are when you're sleeping. Like that's when you're healing, So if you get into like, any kind of accident or something like that, just try to sleep as much as you can because that's when the repair is going down. When you're not sleeping, you're not repairing because you got to do other things. You
need that energy.
So I think when the plants are, topped at the right time and everything is good, great. Later on, at the wrong time, no, because it will not send enough energy to that spot because it just doesn't have it.
Natural.
Yeah.
And like. It's like I love to chop plants back when I know that I'm going to have time to veg them again. Like chop them really back because then it's like it's you're not everything that's coming in is usable because it's all nice and even. There's not these like giant long branches everywhere, and like lots of tight, like just like a little carpet,
Mm-hmm. Like the UV light that's in some lights out there. I mean, that's another example of how it's like blasting the plant with UV light and making it, like hurting it and trying to force it to, generate more resin.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, it's like high altitude. I mean, we're already here, so I guess we're lucky enough that we're in high altitude zone. Yeah. So maybe.
But if you're trying indoor indoor lighting, then I mean, somebody was asking about that at the shop yesterday. We were talking about it.
Well, the key to lighting is that you have the plants don't see the same as we see it. So they have these PAR readers, these PAR meters that are out now, and if you're a serious grower, like if you're working under like hundreds of lights, then you need one of these things. I think because the PAR reader tells you more what the plants are seeing, and because lumens don't mean shit. You could have 1 billion lumens and it don't mean crap. It doesn't mean your plant's going to grow anything. You could have 1 billion lumens next to 6 lumens.
It has to be the right spectrum. But if those
6 lumens were the right spectrum, you're going to have a better growing plant. Yeah. So the key to lighting is not always bigger is better. A lot of times.
That's why you go with Lumitech.
Well, that's why you go with...
Or Hortilux, I mean.
Yeah, whatever. We'll check it out. No, what you got to do, though, is the reason why these PAR meters are really great is because they're on the fly. Like, you hold it up underneath your light, you hit the button, 2 seconds later, you've got a PAR reading of that bulb. Not, and you can go to the next bulb, and you can really see the difference between the different bulbs on the market.
Yeah.
Was one thing, but also the age of the light, where the light's placed, and what you get is you get a graph, just like you do on the back side of your light. When you buy a light, you have a graph on it. This gives you the same idea, so it tells you exactly where your blues and your reds and your, every part of the spectrum. And so, for instance, there's new lighting coming out now, which is these 315 watt bulbs that are coming out now, and
315.
Yeah, and they're basically putting out about 15% more PAR output than 1,000 watt.
Holy crap!
So, and they're interesting because these are from Philips, which is a Dutch company, and they run Holland. I mean, they run the entire country as far as lighting. They supply all the bulbs for all the street lights, and they've been using these bulbs for street lights in Holland for the last 3 or 4 years, and they've saved billions of dollars because of the amount of energy efficiency that these things are. And they're smaller than a regular bulb. They're only about 6 inches long, maybe.
Wow.
They have a mogul base. They have a mogul like converter, so you can retrofit them into any bulb, into any reflector.
Damn.
And because you're using only 315 watts, and the amount of amperage is so much lower, I think you can run a 9 per 20 watt, and 15 per 30 watt. So, or 30 amp, 30 amp fuse. So for a 20 amp fuse, you can run 9 lights, and for a 30 amp fuse, you can run 15 of these. And the thing that's nice about them is that because they have very low heat too. There's only about 80 degrees at 2 feet away. So that's going to be the next big. That's about to hit the market, and it's going to change the game here. Where it's going to be like finally one step up. The funny part about it though is it is still looks just like a mini high pressure sodium, or like a little, actually more like a mini metal halide. It's got the same.
Really?
It's just like a tiny version. You're like, wow. So again, it's not like LEDs where you're going to the next sort of level, but not necessarily delivering what you should. These ones were tested in Australia for growing cannabis. People in Australia tested them. 125 watt version of the same bulb produced a half a pound.
Damn.
One plant.
For one plant?
One plant, one light. So the idea being is if we can bring these lights to where you can just put one of these lights per plant instead of growing, so that way you really know, like, that plant is for that one's for that.
That'd be awesome.
Then I think you can actually control your yields, but also your heat issues and your, and when you look at the quality of the light, it's like really even. I got some photos I can show you.
Damn, that's crazy, dude. I mean, and to think about how many lights we go through, how many lights other grocery stores go through, holy crap.
And they're about, and these ones last 3 years compared to 2 years, so they have a little longer lifespan.
Wow.
And the amount of energy that you save, I mean, if you have a big operation going, that's huge, because, I mean...
Oh, yeah.
Especially with a lot of these guys having to pay for their electricity with cash because they're not allowed to use their banking or whatever.
Yeah.
To not have to bring $25,000 down, to pay your bill and only have to bring down $7,000 would be a huge difference for everybody,
Dude.
So that's the kind of stuff that adds up really quick. And there's a lot of other things on the horizon too. There's all sorts of new. I mean, that's the great thing about this whole industry is that it develops itself.
Yeah, I mean,
we're watching it
expanding exponentially is what's the crazy part about it, man.
Yeah, and I mean, there'll be little facets of it which you're not aware of, and it doesn't change the fact that they're developing just as fast as the ones that you are aware of. You know what I mean? So
the hash making community needs to calm down and settle down and quit fighting for a little bit. I think it's in sort of the semi. I don't want to refer to it as that.
Well, it's fun to watch because I mean,
something.
Like when I was making hash in Amsterdam in '93, it was like I was kind of by myself. There was really nobody else doing it. A couple guys that I knew, and I would talk to Rob Clark, who wrote the book Hashish, and he'd give me pointers. And actually in the book, in the first edition of the book, there was in the written part's still in there. I got booted on my photo credits, of course. So in the original one, I was in there with all sorts of photos. Me and Mila had a page with us together. The new one, her and I got kicked out. I was like, really? We're no good no more? So anyway, our photos are not in there, but the story is in there, and it's basically explaining how, because I was working with such small amounts of hash, I had like little bits like this, maybe 4 or 5 grams, and I had to figure out ways to press it, because that's the key. Which a lot of what I was saying earlier is that I don't think that the people here understand that there's been a hash industry for thousands of years, and right now what they're doing is it's almost like how the glass blowing industry is somebody makes $1 million, they think they've reinvented the wheel, and you're like, well, that's a millefiore, and that was actually developed hundreds
of years ago.
Yeah, exactly, and done by thousands of people and done
Egyptian slaves
and done better than yours, you know what I mean? And so the same with the hash. Right now it's like everybody's excited, but it's also because our starting material is so much better. I mean, if we had the same material and gave it to the people making hash who had dirt weed, basically, who turned that dirt weed into unbelievable pieces of hash, imagine what they would have done with if they had indoor grown perfect strains to work with. Of course they do better. So really it's like we're just a bunch of guys who are happen to have better ingredients to work with.
Yeah, I can understand
and are going to tell everybody that we're the greatest things since sliced bread. But
that's what everybody's ego is going on right now.
But what it comes down to is what I was trying to say earlier about long-term storage. That almost needs to be addressed in some way, shape, or form, because as it becomes an industry where you're packaging and selling somebody something, and then you can't tell them a time, unless you put a date on it where you say good until this date. Realistically, that shouldn't stay stable and be what it is. It's very hard to do, because unless you're drying it for a month, or so, or 6 weeks, and maintaining that drying zone perfectly, and then giving it to the person in the final form, and then then you can be pretty confident that it's going to be stable.
Yeah.
But almost nobody does that because they're pretty much processing it.
It doesn't last here.
You know, and we're lucky because we live in a real dry climate, so the stuff is visually and even tactilely, it's feeling okay, but it's not because it's not ready. It's sort of like a time thing. Like when you let paint cure, you know, you could feel dry to the touch, but there's still a layer in there that's not, and things are still active. And when you then hang it up, things start to slide.
Sure.
So now it doesn't look the same as it did. You know, you come back the next day and your stuff is all kind of drippy. And
it's a great analogy.
So in general, you have to kind of like always, with making this kind of stuff, especially with water hash, you have to like let that stuff dry really well. With butane extraction and things like that, I mean, obviously it's science now, so it's getting to the point where yes, you can use this and that will dry it up quicker, or you can take this and that'll extract it better. But it's still what the problem with all the BHOs, in my opinion, is that, for instance, you take 5 different cans of different cans in the same product, you get 5 different colors coming out of it.
Sure. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So that
Not
means
even end products in general.
So that means we're not getting a complete anything. There's no way, because if we were, it would all be the same. So we're not getting a complete product. We're getting a fraction of a pie. So take the pie, and now, for instance, Vector takes a pie of the left corner of the pie, and Newport takes the left corner and the top right corner. So those are 2 different flavors and 2 different terps and 2 different highs and 2 different everythings. So it means we're not getting a whole plant, which means we're not getting the full benefits, because the only way to get the full benefits of anything with cannabis related is to have the full plant, because they work together. So
I was talking a little bit about
it's kind of why some stuff doesn't get me high. I can smoke it all day.
Same here.
And then if I mix it with something else, I might get really too high all of a sudden. I'm like,
I don't have that issue, but yeah, I know
that's
what
like
you're
at the bottom of your jar that you've like put like 10 different strains in or whatever. You know, you take that and it's like super bud, because there's like everything in the spectrum in there.
Yeah.
It's like awesome.
So I mean, the problem is like right now we're just again experimenting. It's all experimenting, and you know, N-butane, for instance, also extracts different than the cans do, because the cans have isobutane and butane and propane.
In Washington, it's regulated in their rules that you have to use N-butane in a closed loop system to extract.
Huh. Well, that sucks because it doesn't taste so good. So that is the problem. Like, we like what
they almost completely did away with extracts in Washington. It took a bunch of people fighting, and in fact, from what we've understood and read in the rules, you have to adulterate it in some way too. Add like traces of vegetable oil and other inert substances in it. So it's basically like, that's to me saying, and I thought about this more, I think they're trying to make it so you can't smoke it. So it's not something that's enjoyable to smoke, and it only goes in food.
Yeah, that's terrible. Terrible idea.
Yeah.
But, I mean...
So Washington, heads up, yo.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see the cans of butane being long-term either. Like, I don't think that's a long-term way.
It's not very healthy for the environment.
No, it's terrible for the environment, and it's also... it's like we're not really doing anything scientific at that point. That's like we're doing the home hack job, even though it still has the best quality. Like open systems still produce the best quality. Like I haven't seen anybody with a closed loop produce a superior product to somebody with an open blast.
Wow.
Not yet. I mean, I don't know. Maybe for the pens, yeah, maybe, because certain things you can produce, but for shatter, no, I don't. I just haven't seen it yet. And it's kind of funny because it's one of those, like, it's almost like the dirty little secret in the sense that, like, we all have this grandioso idea of ourselves that we're all using these big closed loop systems and walking around with white jackets and taking notes and, you know, that's how life is. No, well, not really. Most of the time you go and you're like, wow, that's dirty. You know, it's like guy's blasting in the same place he's been blasting for the last year. And it's looking pretty grungy. And, you know, you're definitely
that's messed up.
You know.
I know that place.
But then it's all about the product. As long as the product comes out good, it can get to the next step, you know what I mean? And then everybody's happy. Just like you shouldn't go into the kitchen probably in most restaurants. You know, it's the same deal. You just want to probably not know. But
if you know how to polish things, you can cut a lot of corners, basically.
But at the same time,
they're going to start testing now, though, for contaminants and all kinds of other stuff.
No, they should. But the thing that you also find is there's very little contaminants. Actually, like it's hard to. It's like if you're decent, if you make good quality product, then you're already, without even knowing you're doing a good thing, have probably eliminated most of it. You know what I mean? Just because, especially people who smoke a lot. People who smoke and produce product tend to definitely make better products because that is the key to the whole thing. You know what I mean? And anybody can say what they want, but if you're in this and you're not smoking, it's hard, especially because everything changes on like a rapid pace, like maybe day to day. And I've tried. Like for instance, I haven't had I personally, and if somebody has something out there, bring it to me because I have not really smoked any CO2 that I've thought had a great aftertaste.
Hey.
Like I've tried and tried and tried.
We'll try. I'll bring you some Element 420.
Okay, that's. I mean, I'm not saying
some
there isn't.
Labs,
I'm definitely
Element 420.
I'm definitely not saying that there isn't out there. I'm just saying I've had a hard time with it because
I know. I agree with you. It about killed me the other week.
It seems to be like it pulls more water molecules out of it or something like that. Like it seems.
Oh, there's water in it. And here's the thing: is like with it, the
squidgier or something.
The crappy stuff that I had earlier, which was not from Element 420 and Hoodlab, 82 South Federal Boulevard, which by the way, one of our sponsors, but. They're one of our sponsors because I really do enjoy their CO2. This other stuff that
I like the idea of CO2 for food, especially.
But here's the thing: is that I had this other stuff, and I heated up the jar that it was in, and the water separated from it, and you could literally you dump out a little bit of water into your palm. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I think there's probably some purging maybe that can be talked about and done, and that's what I would like to get him back in here and talk about that side of things. So I don't know.
Yeah, and
I hear what you're saying though.
Yeah, well, purging is just like curing. It's this whole other science, and a lot of people don't understand it or get to that point.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest problem with both of them is it takes time, and people tend to not have enough of it. So that's like.
Well, that's what's going to change is. I think it'll change that and force people to the top shelf people. Is that PPMs are starting to be tested for in a lot of places too, and whether or not they're right or not, I mean that's
that's good. I mean, of course, that's the whole key. Is it should be a health.
And we need to understand the numbers and what all that is
because we're exposed to all sorts of things and lots of. I mean, that's the thing is people freak out about leftover contaminants in the butane, but then when they actually test it, a lot of times they're coming out with if anything, 3 parts per million, which is nothing. You know what I mean?
And here's the thing with butane,
up to 1,000 is considered okay. So
butane is inert to human cells.
Well,
human cells make it absolutely. Well, it can't change the human body at all.
No, and the thing is, it's also for instance, canola oil is made with butane extraction.
Exactly.
So if you're eating canola oil, which probably you are, if you're eating any crappy food out
olive
there,
oil, all sorts of oils are extracted using.
Not that canola oil is a good oil to be eating, but at the same time, it's not the butane that makes the canola oil bad. I mean, but it's just the processing.
Olive oils are extracted. Some olive oils are extracted by butane. I mean, it's.
Well, I don't think I'd be using any olive oil with butane extraction either. I think it's called cold press is what you're looking for.
I don't know. Yeah, that's what, what I understand is that
maybe that's their secret. Cold means butane.
That's from what I understood. That
ice cold pressed.
I could be wrong.
Yeah. So don't you guys have some news to do or something?
We do.
You're it.
That's it.
We were just sitting here chatting back and forth like we're friends, man.
All right.
I do have news.
I'm just checking.
I'll get some news. If anybody else has any questions in the chat room, go ahead and toss those too. What?
I've been just reading the chat room. It's going by fast today. There's a lot of chatting.
Dude, we got an awesome guest here today with us. Mm-hmm. So Adam Dunn from T.H.Seeds and HempHoodlamb is chilling with us here in the studio live on Canvas Radio. Maybe some of you aren't listening to us live, but still, he's here in Denver, Colorado, the Mile High City. So thank you very much, Adam, for hanging out with us.
No problem.
Welcome to chill as long as you want. If you got anything else to add, then feel free to toss that in there.
Well, I got an event going on tomorrow.
Oh, Jesus.
Duh.
There's a few things we forgot about.
Yeah, the main reason he came in.
I need to start writing out notes. We're getting to the
I noticed you have like a blank piece of paper in front of you. It's kind of funny.
I do. Well, it's got like
2 scribbles on it.
It'll have that or a pen that doesn't work, one or the other.
Quality breeding. I didn't get to your thoughts on cannabis supply and what's going to happen at the beginning of the year. UV light, and then a few strain names on here. I used to write out an outline, but then I never would follow it, but I need to do that now. All right, yes, tomorrow.
Well, tomorrow.
Big-ass event.
Yeah, we got another great event down at the Hoodlab. It's obviously 710 weekend, so we thought we would bring back the Kottonmouth Kings because they're going to be in town anyway with doing their makeup show at the Summit. They had a little incident there last time. Their show got canceled, so they came to the Hoodlab and we had a little barbecue. They loved it, and so it was like kind of like we thought we'd plan it a little bit better since last time was just off the cuff. And so this time we've got them coming back to do a signing. There's T-shirts for like first 250 people get free T-shirts and like a gift bag with all sorts of jars and things. And
oh, cool!
Yeah, it's gonna be good. And then so it's gonna be a lot of the Kottonmouth Kings in town, fans based and stuff. And then of course we got the 710 people, so it's kind of a natural progression. They're definitely very pro cannabis, I'd have to say.
Yeah, I'm gonna dab the fark out of them all. They're gonna DTFO. I want to get a picture of one of them.
You do. You should.
Okay. So if you would like to get tickets for this event, $25 at the Hoodlab Facebook page. The
link there. Yeah, there's a link there for tickets. It starts early too. It starts at 12 o'clock, so it's going to be an all-day event. It's 21 and up or red card holders. So if you happen to be in that little category there, because sometimes we get those 19, 20-year-olds and lucky enough to and smart enough to have gotten yourself a red card. Now you're allowed to come to our events, because basically the only reason we do 21 and up, I mean, obviously we're not going to allow you to drink, but if you have your red card, then you don't need to drink. So.
Yeah, you can't smoke if you're legally technically 21. Anyway,
if you have a red card,
right? Well, I mean, if the recreational situation.
Yeah, but they're not. They're medicated.
No, I mean that's fine. The med people are covered, and I'm glad that you covered them. But also the 21 and over. And anyway,
exactly. No, and it's
nice.
It's cool. I've got people coming into town already yesterday, rolling in and stuff. So it's
cool.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a good one. And then who else we got in there? We got Graffiti Factories also showing. He's got a really cool museum with skateboards from Tony Alva's skateboard collection. And we have a half pipe, we got a little mini ramp at the spot built now, so
people killing it, man.
It's starting to happen down there, starting to become the spot.
Starting?
Well,
it's always been the spot,
you know.
Getting bigger.
Getting more comfy, that's for sure. We get a lot more tables. It's funny, my friend came into town and he's like, "You got a lot of tables out here now," and he's like, "You guys and your dabs," like, he's from Texas.
He knew exactly where it came from. He's like,
yeah, we do have a lot of tables, don't we? So it's like, yeah, it's one of those.
The dab.
The scenery has changed in the stoner world. It's like before, none of us needed any of that. Now we need a table. Like that's all we need. If we don't have a table, it's just not going to happen.
You're gonna lose a rig here and there.
Dude. Oh my goodness. The lab. Inside the green room, the tile has ate up rigs. Oh, jeez. The last one I saw broke in there was Daniel D's, his beer glass rig, the drip rig.
Yeah. No, I lost a piece the other day, too. So,
I did, too.
And it wasn't mine, of course.
Not at the lab.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which one broke?
Well, I was lucky because it's just a joint at the top, so I can actually repair it. But it's that tall termini piece I have, and it was the classic where slow motion.
Oh, dude, it always goes.
You probably pushed it off more.
Dude, it always goes slow motion when you do that, unless you're an actual glass blower.
And I think Derek was.
Then things just explode.
Derek was witness to the whole thing, and he said it was unbelievable because it was just like zero reactions from anybody. Like kind of like, are you kidding me?
It's just another one.
So.
Yeah, dude.
That's supposed to like go right up your spine, and
You know what we seriously need.
It's fun to throw glasses around glass blowers every so often, just to see the reaction. If you're just in a room full of glass blowers, just take a glass, regular glass, of course, and just see what happens. You just watch everybody just
jump, dude.
The precondition.
There's nothing more awesome in a release of energy though. If your piece is like broken on the lathe. Or if you've got like a glass bubble that you've made or something, there's pressure in it because when you throw it up in the air and it comes down, it goes big old pop.
Well, the guy who made that piece that just got broken, Carl Termini, he at one of our parties in Amsterdam, he had this sick.
Is that
piece.
the guy who lives in New York now?
Yeah. Okay. He had this sick bong that he had made that was just retarded, right? But it was like he had just like he had 2 imperfections on it, so he knew it was not going to happen. So that was his kind of dramatic moment during the party was that he had this he had a friend of his had just died, and he wanted to kind of like do some sort of commemorative thing, but nobody understood what the hell was going on because all they saw was this guy run up, smash this incredible piece with all these like marbles and stuff in it, and everybody just scrambled on the floor and started to grab all the marbles, and nobody listened to him, and he was talking about, you know, hard drugs and how it killed his friend and da-da-da, and it was the most like missed moment, you know. I'm the only guy in the room that knew what was going on. Everybody just thought that somebody went crazy and smashed this piece.
Had a big speech.
Got all crazy on the mic, you know what I mean? But it was like, I was like, yeah, that's a good way to get everyone's attention. Just pick up a humongous $5,000 glass piece and smash it in front of everybody.
That is a good way.
Yeah.
That's good publicity. You gotta get their attention before you do it, I think.
I think we could do something like bowling with some big giant
Sometimes
rigs
glass
or something,
blowers.
like have a really sick, like, you know, $100,000 worth of glass, but they're all slightly messed up and nobody can see the mess ups. You know what I mean? And then
No, that's the thing is like
all seconds. Yeah.
some glass blowers and most glass blowers would be like, number one, won't sell it,
Yeah.
and two, I mean that shit ends up broken. They don't want it. I mean, they want it broken.
Yeah.
They don't want that bad juju.
So start collecting all your pieces for the bowling tournament.
Dude, that is
Not
a
a bad idea.
fantastic idea. That might be one of the best
Could be like a
fundraiser
Hoodlab
ideas.
Borough Bowling.
Yeah, would be a good fundraiser. That's for
Hell
sure.
yeah. Write that shit
I
down.
just did.
Actually, on the way over here, I came up with a good name for a grow shop. I was like, I was pulling up to the shop out here, and I thought, especially if it was in a Mexican neighborhood, if it was called the Grow Chop.
The Grow Chop.
Because that's what you do. You
the
grow,
grow chop, man.
and then
Come
you
down to
chop.
Grow Chop
You
on
grow,
South Federal.
And you chop.
Grow
and you
chop.
grow, and you chop.
Well,
And
it's
you
grow big is one of the big ones now. You know, like with Grow Big Supply, growbigsupply.com.
Yeah.
That's you know, a lot of companies using grow big or grow home.
Oh, yeah. That
Or
shop's
go
actually
home.
pretty good. I've been going by there just because they're close to my spot.
Grow Big Supply, yeah.
And they are the ones who will be selling our soil, the first soil that we're bringing out here.
What?
Yes. Things are coming out. Things
What?
are happening.
Grow Big Supply also is our biggest sponsor here on the John Doe Radio Show. So big shout out to them. You're coming out with
It's coming out. It's coming out. It's not
Who's
out.
all?
But this it's on. It's
all
coming
right,
out.
all right.
It's coming.
God dang.
The new, yeah. Basically,
right.
we're just trying to make a new base for all the super soils that everybody else is making, because we're not trying to make the end all of end alls, but we found a superior soil that's not from around here, does not contain bugs, and does not contain any kind of extra hanger-oners, so it's just been an issue for a lot of these companies, and we're basically what we're trying to do is we're not mixing ourselves with any other companies. Because,
So it's a soil.
Yeah, it's called Doit.
Doit.
Wow.
Spelled D-O-I-T, which is
Awesome.
also do it too. So it can be either or, however you want to look at
Do
it.
Are
it
you gonna
in the
have?
Doit.
Are you gonna have the little like on the top? You know,
Gotcha.
you gotta have that on there.
I know, because otherwise they don't know how to say it.
What's
Doit.
that called?
I think the East Coast people are gonna love it.
What's that little
They're
thing?
gonna finally be able to say something. Doit.
Oh, yeah,
Hey,
yeah, yeah.
Give me some Doit over here.
Bring that bucket of dirt. Doit.
Dude. That's cool, dude. I didn't know that. That's awesome. Yeah, good times. There's Batch 64, man. I've heard mixed reviews on that one.
Yeah, I had some. I mean, I'm not gonna say good or bad about it.
Oh, you did?
I got a bag of it. I mean, it was a bit too light and wimpy, but besides that,
That's what you got to do. It's sort of a
that's their idea.
professional soil that
Yeah.
you really have to drive.
Exactly, and that's kind of the. I mean, what we're doing is we're coming out with something that you can take it from the bag, use it right away, and then idea is, I mean, a lot of people don't reuse their soil. Most people are just kind of get it, dump it. If I have no pests, any kind of problems, I'll always reuse my soil, because a lot of times what you find is that even though the plants used up what they needed to, when you get a chance to actually amend it yourself, because now you know exactly what you put in there,
Yeah.
then you really see that the second round actually sometimes can be even better than the first round, just because you're giving them the amendments yourself. It's not mixed in some giant mega thing.
Well, there's a few gardens I've seen where people have thrown their soil into there, and I mean, it's like the gardens are.
Oh yeah, no, that's the benefit.
Whoa.
I mean, I love to be able to build raised beds with all the old soil, and you don't never need to feed those. I mean, they're loaded up. Because I mean,
Here's the thing.
phosphorus doesn't break down for a long time. And that's the thing is we grow these plants so fast that, especially like with liquids it helps because it's breaking them down quicker. But still, there's a lot lingering in there. There's a lot in this soil.
Make sure with and this is just from the very recent experience that I have working with soil and lugging it around and all that shit with it. make sure that you get yourselves a good bag. Don't get a wimpy bag, dude. Otherwise,
oh, I know. Tell me about it.
Nobody's gonna sell that shiz.
Yep.
And it's crap.
I know. Well, that has been the problem right now, and that's why we're not coming out with it yet, because the company that bagged it, the original stuff, definitely did not come up with a great bag. So it's been like kind of like, okay, let's just wait until this stuff's all figured out properly, because that is definitely the problem.
Yeah. Because I mean that's a big thing. So, I don't know how many times ram a forklift into bags. Like, oh, the dirt everywhere.
So for you, I guess we need like some armor-plated bags that can resist forklift punctures.
Dude, this is like the first time I've ever really drove a forklift is over there. So, hey, I get her done. Don't I? The only time I really don't drive it is when I'm taking something out of one of the shipping carrier's trucks. Because, I wouldn't want to fart that couch. That would suck. So, well, and as we mentioned, Saturday at Hoodlab, 3354 Larimer Street in Denver. Come down and hang out, and you'll be selling tickets at the door, I suppose, too.
Tickets at the door and tickets online. So
okay,
yeah. And like I said, 21 and over or red card.
And so come down and hang out with us on Saturday. The 710 Cup going on, all that craziness this weekend, and man, I got to figure out how to get around this weekend, because I mean the 710 Cup was. I was gonna go down. I was gonna go home. I live a mile away from the Hoodlab. I was gonna walk to Hoodlab and then walk between Hoodlab and Exto.
No, that's not happening now.
Because where the cup, that's where the High Times Cup was too, but they changed that. It's over off of like I-70 in Colorado at the right groups.
It's definitely a bit of a walk.
Mm-hmm.
They said they're gonna
do it. It's not impossible.
It's gonna be interesting though. I have to say they and then the right groups are the same guys that I rented all my stuff from. They're great people
for the Carnival,
and they have definitely got everything you ever need for a party, that's for sure. So I can't imagine that they can't pull together something crazy. It's going to be definitely more ravey, I think, though, than it would have been at the Exto, because Exto is a bit more,
tight,
controlled and organized, whatever. This one's going to sound like it's going to be a little more crazy. I mean, they have a ton of music. They have like 100
bands, I heard. Yeah,
100 DJs.
There's like 3 stages. Del the Funky Homo Sapien is going to be there.
What?
Del?
Yeah. When?
I don't know, Saturday night.
Yeah,
Saturday night.
So things are going. It's definitely going to go off. It's going to be interesting. It's just like I don't know about the location. Is definitely in a weird spot.
Yeah, it's like weird. It is, but I mean,
outdoors under a tent.
It's tents, but they, like I said,
and that
these guys supply tents
nothing.
to everything though. So they have probably 1 million square
the
feet.
Tent
of
that
tent.
the tent that they're the main tent is a double stack.
Yeah, it's
tent. I mean, it's
sick.
2-story.
It probably holds 1,500 people. That tent alone. So. Yeah.
Dude, it's gonna be dope. I'm actually getting really excited forward to thinking about it.
Oh yeah. No, I only got a little scared the other day. I turned on my local TV and I saw 4 days of rain, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
Like, but it's Colorado, so it's
spritz.
Colorado. You gotta you gotta take everything like a little grain of salt there, because
last night it was like one of the longest it
crazy.
rained in a long time, and one of the most crazy.
It rained last night.
Yeah.
Great sleeping weather.
Okay, so here the stories from the light rail. I got off work, came over here for a minute, and looked at a few other invoices, tried to straighten out some things, and cleaned up the office, and hung out with the dudes that were chilling here, the producer, and then all of a sudden I go, which it was fine. It was beautiful outside. I go back to the front door, and it's farking.
It was
and I'm
intense.
like, motherfucker, damn. And I thought for a second, I'm like, do I wait it out because Colorado, maybe wait 15 minutes, that shit is going to change, or do I make a run for it and go for it? I was like, I stepped outside and I was like, dude, it's still like 85 degrees out here. Not a cold rain, because that's something you got to worry about in Colorado. Is sometimes you get that cold rain and it'll freeze your balls off. So I was like, fuck it. I just went and walked. Light rail took the longest time I have ever experienced. It usually takes me about 40 minutes to get home. It took an hour plus yesterday getting home. And when I got to the Broadway station, it was absolutely just pouring down, dude.
It's like last year around the same time of year, we had some crazy weather like this too, where it was like every day I left the lab, it was like lightning, like a rock concert, where it was just
there were so
everywhere I looked, it was.
There were so many clouds in the sky yesterday that when lightning hit, it was like a light bulb, like
I saw a lot of that.
Yeah.
Lit up the whole damn sky.
It was awesome.
So yeah,
but we need it. I mean, that's the one good thing about Colorado is whenever there's rain like that, it doesn't really matter because this place sucks it down like it ain't nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas back in Amsterdam, it was like, wow, it rained every day, so it didn't really matter. You just
like New England.
Got used to it after a while. You're like, really, sun? Like, wow.
Everybody,
we'd have like sun warnings and alerts. You know, like warning, sun
Bring
will be
your
out.
sunglasses with you today.
Everybody says to go to Amsterdam during the flower season.
Oh, it's awesome then.
That's
as
the
far
thing,
as I mean,
yeah.
that is like the definitely. There's 2 times a year, like the spring and the fall, where the light changes there a lot, and that's kind of the reason why everyone lived there. And you don't know it until you're there, and then you see it, and then you go, "That's it. That's the reason why these guys moved here." Because it's this incredible, like purple-hued light that just hits because, and it's only for like a certain time of the day.
Yeah,
and that's why all those great painters would go there and paint these, sceneries and stuff because you get this, super special light. It's nice.
Sweet. I still want to go there, even though the big cup is now here. But that's definitely a spot I'd like to make it to. Always got to go. And then also another thing is that Australia is the place I've always wanted to go to. And by the way, big thanks to that Australian TV crew from not the Dateline here in America. There's a Dateline news show that's been on the air for like 27 years, and awesome news coverage from what I understand. The guy that was here is Australian and a very pro cannabis situation to where it's almost like why people should come here to enjoy the greens and stuff. And they were very impressed with our show and everything, and in fact asked for another interview over at the Hoodlab this Saturday. So they'll be over at Hoodlab with us, hanging out Saturday, showing off more of our culture here with the Kottonmouth Kings at the DabBQ. DabBQ just sounds like the perfect summer event. Period. End of story. And how can I forget this? Son of a biatch! I should have mentioned this. I almost want to amend the beginning of the show. Georgia Edson is going to be on Katie Couric's show this Thursday.
Crazy.
She's flying out to New York and gonna come back, and then they're going on another vacation for a day or two and to see the Counting Crows. She's gonna do an amazing amount of flying, but whoa, dude, we're getting some awesome attention here at iCannabis Radio, and that's part of it. Is iCannabis Radio?
She gonna wear a JDR shirt.
It's part of the whole
Katie
marijuana
Couric.
mom movement that's going on right now.
Get her a pink JDR shirt.
I think she want to be a little bit more classy than the pink JDR
Get it
shirt.
for her.
I will do that, but I'm not gonna hate her if she doesn't wear it.
She can take a hint. Come on.
I understand, but no, that's awesome. So she's gonna be taping that on Wednesday, from what I understand, and then Thursday on with like Cheryl Schumann and Marijuana Moms that's going on. So holy farkin' cow! I guess we really like I posted the other day that I need to really understand who's watching me and watching us. Holy crap! Every day it hits us even more.
Yeah, no, it's going. It's good. It's like everything.
Adam's been through this.
Yeah, well, it's nice to see. It's great to be recognized, right? I mean, come on.
It is, man, and especially we've been doing this for 6 years. 5 total years, a couple years full time here, every day on the John Doe Radio Show, and it's cool. It's very rewarding to see the pickup that we've had. It's very rewarding to have Bike very interested in pushing business. Not that we haven't had people that who were involved with the show before that weren't pushing me and interested in the success of the show. It's just awesome at this point.
Good save.
No, because it did happen, and now I'm a little bit more open to being able to do what needs to be done or delegate what needs to be done. But it's so rewarding, and the people that listen to us and the feedback they give, that's better than almost anything.
Like, you'll notice with cannabis and hemp and everything, it always goes through these waves.
I've never been on a High Times panel like you though, so I can't.
I'm sure you will. Sure you will. But you'll notice it always goes in waves, and we've been on the positive one for a while now, which is good.
Yeah.
So you have to so it's just all about kind of staying with it, because as quickly as it gets in fashion, it gets out of fashion, and then it goes back into fashion. And that's been, with us in hemp, it's been like that forever. Like, if Madonna put on like a hemp thing, then
clothes, which we didn't get into really.
Then all of a sudden, it's the hottest new thing, and you're like, "You're really the hottest new thing again?" It's like, how does that happen? Like,
been here before.
So in '93, we had a big rush. Like, that's when we started our company, and that's was a big hemp kind of movement then. That's like when Cypress Hill was #1 in the charts. Everybody had like a weed leaf that was bigger than their shirt on their shirt. You know what I mean? You always like, whoa, my God, everybody's going crazy. You know, and it was becoming like mainstream as far as like brands that obviously did not care about cannabis had weed leaves on their things. And then all of a sudden that like didn't last that long. You know, quickly that was out, and then it was, you know, in again a little bit and out again, and that's just kind of the way it is. I mean, I think but now that it's on this positive, I think we'll keep it that way.
Your camo shirts, well, I mean, all of the collared shirt that your summer line that you've come out with is a perfect example of the evolution of quality hemp and the culture being a little bit more stylish and concentrated on that side of things. Because I mean, I like wearing collared shirts. You know, I'm wearing a collared shirt today.
Well, funny enough,
I've worn T-shirts a lot lately because I go next door in 90-degree heat and have to deal with that. But these hemp collared shirts, the shorts that you have, I mean, all that, it's stylish. The hats that you did with Grassroots.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with us, we've always been a winter line. That's kind of been our strong point. So
pimpin' jackets.
So when we came out with summer stuff, it obviously was not like going to go gangbusters just because people are like thinking about us as a different brand. But
yeah.
It took a while, and it's also like you have to make less. There's less products to make in the summer either. You know, just like, so what are you guys doing? You know, and then, but we actually have this new summer weave that we're making, which is a lighter weave, and that just made everything like
it's
much
awesome.
easier. So like the new shirts, the new shorts. I mean, because we were making shorts with the same material that we were making the jackets with before, and that's like a little bit overkill. Kind of nice though, like if you're a skater or if you like to wear your stuff till it falls off your body type thing.
Somebody mentioned
clothes. Perfect clothes.
Somebody mentioned something about see-through shorts at some point to me the other day.
See-through shorts.
And I was like, that must be that European design coming through.
Terrible idea.
No, they mentioned about yours or something, though.
My see-through shorts?
I have never seen any see-through shorts with you.
I don't think we're going to have any see-through shorts coming up soon. I had somebody who wanted to order some, they wanted fur-lined pants, you know? That's like, and I was just like, wow, dude,
We're trying to get together.
Yeah,
we're trying to get together yoga pants, JDR yoga pants. I think
as long as you are wearing them as the advertisement.
That's what I said,
dude. I told you I'm down for it if we could do it.
That's
if we get the yoga
shiz.
pants together. By the way, baby Jeebus smiled on me today getting out of the light row. That's really all I gotta say about that. Connecting that with the yoga. Anyway, I love Colorado. So anyway, big thanks to Adam Dunn, T.H.Seeds, HempHoodlamb. And make sure you guys check out this barbecue that's going on tomorrow if you get a chance in town. Oh, by the way,
at the Hoodlab.
Do we still got a bunch of people in the chat room?
Oh, it's loaded down.
Can we give away a pair of tickets to somebody that wants to come down?
Sure.
All right, first person to send me where should we have him send it? Like the John Doe Radio Show Facebook page, because I don't want a bunch of emails.
Post it on the JDR page.
Post it on the JDR Facebook page. And I posted this question last. I told you, pay attention. Who's the only other person who has hosted the John Doe Radio Show by themselves? I had to have a kidney stone taken out, so there's like 2-3 days that this dude hosted the John Doe Radio Show. So first person to go post that. If you're in Denver, going to be here, want to come hang out with the Kottonmouth Kings tomorrow, I'll have your tickets waiting for you. I'll just put it down with your name +1. And we'll do that. Thank you very much, Adam.
No problem. Thank you.
Have a fantastic day, everybody. Thanks to our sponsors on the John Doe Radio Show, Compassionate Pain Management, Kind Love. Make sure you do check out Kind Love and their Stay Concentrated line that they carry there, because it's some of the best extract that you can get anywhere. Big thanks, I said Compassionate Pain Management. Big thanks to Evo Lab, Element 420, Warren Edson, Mayton and Matz, Criminal Defense, Cannabusiness, Family Law,
MMJDenver.net.
MMJDenver.net for Kind Love. And did we cover everything? BigGrowSupply.com. Until we meet again on Monday, have yourselves a fantastic 7-10 weekend. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you there, Tim. Thanks, Adam. We'll see you this weekend. And how was your weekend, Tim? Bye-bye.
Be prepared for that question on Monday. All right. I was John Doe with Bike. See ya.
Radio show is produced by Charlie Stash Entertainment. The John Doe Radio Show programming is not limited by information or agriculture subjects and is informational and entertainment purposes only. We specifically include responsible marijuana reform. Rights. Listening to anyone but your mother is just stupid. We accept endorse the use of illegal drugs. You are ultimately responsible for yourself.
Live.